1. Half a year ago, I lived across the street from my college with my couple-month-old son and his second cousin. During the summer, I had taken a class at the college on the paranormal. Part of the class was to go out and go ghost hunting. Luckily for me, the college itself happens to have a reputation for being haunted, and one of the buildings was being torn down during this assignment. So I wander over to the college in the middle of the night with my son, meet up with some of the employees. My mom works there, so I was on speaking terms with most of the staff, and have them take me through some of the buildings. We get to one that's fairly popular paranormal-wise, and my son, who has always been a doll, starts freaking out. I mean full-on temper tantrum. He wouldn't stop, till finally we left the building. I got a few pictures of orbs, but nothing spectacular. During the next couple weeks, things started getting weird in my apartment. My son's toys would go missing, then appear in the room between me and the roommate. While we were talking about it in a place we had both looked tons of times. The TV volume would act up, and I would randomly feel like I was being watched. One morning I came downstairs because my roommate had called me to unlock the deadbolt. Now the deadbolt was set up so that it could only be locked and unlocked from the inside of the house. We both agreed when moving in that we would never lock it. Yet here it was locked. At the time we brushed it off as me being tired and locking it without thinking. That was till the incident happened. I took my son over to the college to have a walk and eat lunch with my mom. When we got home, I unlocked the door and went to open it, only it wouldn't open. The deadbolt was locked. My roommate was out of town visiting an ill family member, so no one should have been inside the house. My initial thought was someone broke into the house, so I called my mom, shaking, telling her what's going on, and to be on standby at work because I was going to call my son's father to come over and check the house for me before calling the police. I sit outside with my son, ready to bolt if someone comes outside, smoking a cigarette while I wait for my son's father. I see him pull up below and at the same time hear the sliding of the deadbolt and click of it unlocking the door. The door was suddenly unlocked when I had tried it a bunch of times before that. We walked through and checked the house for anyone, but it was empty. 2. It's very rare I share this experience with people. My only saving grace that had happened was that my parents were there to witness it. When I was around 16, my auntie died under mysterious circumstances in Thailand. She had been in touch with various family members over the phone and explained that her long-term relationship was coming to an end and she was saving money to come back home. Unfortunately, that never happened. She died of a supposed drug overdose, but a few of us suspected her older boyfriend killed her to stop her coming back home. But that's a different story. Her body was cremated fairly quickly, and my dad and uncle went to collect the urn of her ashes from the airport. They brought them back and sat them on the side, and the plan was that they were to be taken to my grandma in Yorkshire the following weekend. My dad hadn't cried once since finding out about the death of his sister, but a few nights later he came home and started shouting and crying. My mum was trying to calm him down in the kitchen, and one of the last vivid things I remember was walking into the living room, picking up the urn of my aunt's ashes and nothing else. Now, before I go into the rest, I should state that I met my auntie in person only once, when I was 7 years old, and I hadn't spoken with her on the phone since then, and it was literally a quick hello. I remember glimpses of sitting on the floor of the living room saying things, and my dad with his arm around me, as my mum sat there, eyes wide, watching me. After a while, it was like I woke up, but basically I'd named people, places, and events from my aunt's past, including the name of a German man who my grandma had worked with. Things I couldn't possibly have known. I also said that my grandma's old male neighbor who she had tea with was going to have a fall and die around Christmas time, and told my dad that he needed to see a doctor because the pain he'd been having in his stomach was serious. This is something he told no one about, not even my mum. I felt tired for days, and like all the energy had been drained from my body. When it came for us to take my aunt's ashes to my grandma, my dad sat her down and explained what happened. At one point my dad spoke about some photographs my grandma had taken of my aunt as a little girl, around aged 3, where she's wearing a check dress. My Gran's face went white as a sheet, and she walked out of the room. When she returned, she had a shoebox, and shakily pulled out the exact photo I had mentioned, stating that she'd never told anyone about them, because she was going to have copies made and give them to the family as a cute surprise at Christmas. On Christmas Eve that year, we got a call from my grandma to say her neighbor had passed away after having a bad fall the week before. And a few months later, my dad was sadly diagnosed with bowel cancer. I don't remember any particular sensations about the event, other than what I have described, and feeling both mentally and physically exhausted for some days after. From the handful of people I have told, they have suggested my aunt used me as a channel. It's by far the strangest experience I've ever had, especially when I didn't know my aunt very well, though I have been told I look like her quite a lot. I just wondered if anyone else out there had experienced similar. Thank you. 3. About 10 years ago, I lived in a pretty active house for 3 years. I was 17 to 19 at the time. It started small but escalated slowly. On the day we moved in, my mom, sister, and I, the neighbors greeted us, a nice older couple. In conversation, they mentioned that the past 3 families had moved out after 1 year, but I didn't think anything of it. As we unpacked, I went into the attic to put away storage boxes, and found that the attic was already full of boxes full of random things. Clothes, toys, an old Atari system, all kinds of stuff. We thought it was weird, but made room for our things and left it all there. The house had a creepy feeling from the start. The being watched feeling, and sometimes a feeling that you were somewhere you shouldn't be, especially in the hallway. We had 2 cats, and they would be lying down and then look up and seem to watch something across the room, and sometimes follow it to the next room. Nothing there, no bugs, nothing. Fast forward 6 months, and we started hearing footsteps in the attic. Heavy, boot-sounding steps from one end of the house to the other. Then we would hear boxes sliding across the plywood attic floor as well. This got to be an almost daily occurrence. We knew it wasn't squirrels making those sounds. A while later, my girlfriend at the time moved in with us, and she witnessed what we had, and more started happening. We would stay up late watching TV, and not every night, but some nights the TV would turn on to Channel 5 on its own, always between 3 and 3:05 a.m. The cable box would still display whatever channel I was watching, and the remote would stop working. I would have to unplug the cable box to get it to reset. On the back door were long blinds that would clack against the door with the slightest movement. On 2 occasions, my girlfriend and I watched one bottom corner of the blinds slightly be pulled away from the door about a foot, and slowly let back down. One day, I was going into the garage. I opened the door from the kitchen, and the big trash can we kept just to the left of the door immediately slid out about 2 feet to block my way into the garage. That was the first time I had felt genuinely scared of what or who was there. A while after that, it got intense for me specifically. On 8 occasions, I was slapped in the face moments after I laid down in the bed. It wasn't the falling feeling you get as you fall asleep. I was completely awake and aware. There was an audible smack, and my head was forced into my pillow. My face would be cold and all pins and needles, and every hair on my body stood up. Every time. Most times I would see a dense black figure in my room doorway afterwards, and those were the only times I saw apparitions in that house. A little while after the slapping started, my grandparents came to visit. My grandpa is very sensitive to spirits, so I was interested to see what he felt. Within minutes of coming into the house, my grandpa looked left to right, shook off a chill and said, "Whoa, you guys live in this joint?" So that pretty much confirmed it for us, that we weren't crazy. We told him a little bit of the activity, but not everything, because it would have turned into a week-long rant from my grandpa. Anyway, the next day I woke up, and he was already awake. He immediately led me to the hall closet, where we all have always had the feeling that we were somewhere we shouldn't be. He said he got up last night to use the bathroom, and when he passed the closet, he was stopped and felt he needed to open it. He said he saw a small, dark wooden door with a silver metallic handle. As soon as he reached for the handle, it disappeared, All he saw was drywall. He then opened the closet door and pointed out to me that there was about a 5x5 completely walled-off space behind the closet, and the faint outline of a small door that had been drywalled shut. Basically a small, inaccessible room. We tried to look up history on the house but couldn't find anything. Shortly after, I ended up moving out. I've had a few other experiences since, but nothing like that house. That house was proof beyond proof for me. It got unnerving towards the end, but it hooked me into the paranormal. 4. I still don't know what to think of this to this day. A few years ago, I was dating this guy. He was at school one day, and I was at home waiting for him to get off. He was still in college, and I just got done with beauty school. So he comes over to my house, and he has something in his hand. I ask him, "What is that?" And he says, "I don't know, I was walking and some homeless guy gave it to me. I thought it looked cute. I thought you might like it." My first thought was, why would you take some random thing from a stranger? You don't know where it's been. So, it was this little knick-knack with 3 little birds sitting on top. Looked like something you'd find sitting on a nightstand or something at your grandmother's house. Something about it didn't sit right with me. But I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I kept it on my windowsill. Ever since that thing came into the house, weird things started happening. Nothing too intense. I remember I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would turn on the light, and would see my dog awake and staring either at the mirror or just at nothing. Sometimes he'd wake me up with his barking, and I would just see him barking at nothing. He never did that before. He would always fall asleep right next to me. Another instance, I'm not sure what the heck happened, but I have a thing of Vicks in my room. Because your girl thinks Vicks fixes everything. I woke up one morning to find a wad of Vicks on my stereo in my room. It was half of my Vicks container that ended up in my stereo. I was really confused on how it got there. Then another night, I was sitting on my bed, and at the time there was nothing else on my desk except a few pens and my little EOS chapstick. So I was sitting there doing whatever on my laptop. And all of a sudden my EOS chapstick goes flying across my room. I was freaked out. I sat there for a while staring at the chapstick on the floor before I picked it up. It was as if someone had swiped it off my desk forcibly. My window was closed, so I doubt it was any kind of wind. Then again, I don't think the wind would have gotten my EOS to fly off my desk like it did. I told my boyfriend at the time, and he said that it was creepy. I was freaked out, and he came over. I told him that the thing that you got from the homeless man is possessed or something. Maybe there was a spirit attached to it. I don't know. I told him that he has to take it out of here tomorrow. I don't care where you take it, but it's not staying here. Later that night, we tried to go to sleep. Now, I don't know if it was our minds playing tricks on us or what, but we swore we'd seen little orbs of light floating around in the corner of my room. We stared at it for a while, trying to figure out if it was coming from outside the window. But it was dark outside. Nothing could have been coming through. Eventually, we just hid under the covers and tried to go to sleep, and hope for morning to come as fast as it can. Morning came, and he was getting ready to go home, then go to school. I made sure he took the birds with him. Now, it was pretty gloomy outside. I swear as soon as he left with the figurine, my room felt lighter. I feel like this heavy blanket has been lifted, and I feel like I could breathe again. Even the sun came out and was shining through my window. It really felt peaceful. He sent me a picture later that day of where he left the birds. He left it on a tree where him and his friends hung out at the college. Not sure if it's still there or someone else has taken it. We never talked about it since. Moral of the story here: don't take random things from strangers. No matter what it is, you never know what could be lingering along with it. 5. A little background before the story. My family and I moved to a new house when I was 14. It was newly built, and we were the first to live in it. It was my parents, my sister, and I. Throughout the years, we've had family get-togethers and parties where everyone has had a great time. When I was 15, however, At one of these family get-togethers, I was sitting in the living room with one of my cousins, while everyone else was in the dining room or in the front room. The living room is connected to the kitchen, so no matter where you sit, you can always see either the trash can, which has a flipped lid, or the table. While me and my cousin were just chatting, something caused us both to turn our heads. We saw the trash can's lid flip on its own. We got up to check if anyone had gotten up to throw something away, and no. Everyone was still playing a game or chatting in the same space. We figured it was the vent above the trash can that made it flip. Neither one of us said anything about it again. We had a babysitter who would stay with us occasionally because my father was on tour in Iraq and my mother worked nights. I know it's ridiculous for a 15-year-old to have a babysitter, but my mother felt it was necessary. Besides, the babysitter was only 5 years older than me, so I enjoyed our talks and time together. She slept in the guest room for a while before I noticed she started sleeping downstairs. One day I asked her why she didn't sleep in the room. Her face turned pale and she quietly asked, "Have you ever had anything weird happen to you in this house?" I looked at her confused and remembered the trash incident. I didn't reply though. She kept looking at me and said, "I am probably going to sound crazy, but I think your guest room has something in it." I continued to look at her, not saying a word. She continued, "One night I got up because I felt something was wrong. I went to check on you guys and you were both sleeping, so I went back to bed. Laying there, I started to notice the statue doll you have on the nightstand was staring at me. Like, really staring. But I turned around and I started to fall back asleep. And that's when I heard whispers coming from the vent. I thought it was you guys again, but when I checked, you were still both asleep." She ended the conversation and went to sit on the couch, leaving me there baffled. I started to get a bad feeling in my gut. When I was 17, we got a new dog who was a Chihuahua. She slept in my sister's room with her every night. One night I woke up to my sister standing over me. "Can I sleep with you? The dog is freaking me out." I couldn't respond as I had just woken up and just scooted over. In the morning, however, I asked my sister what had happened. She replied, "I don't know. I was about to go to sleep when the dog sat up from my laptop and started whining and looking at the vent. She started barking, and that's when I took her and went to your room." I didn't respond. After a couple of days, I was still thinking about it, and it only hit me then about the babysitter that we used to have. I heard whispers coming from the vent. I tried to shake it off. A couple of weeks later, my little cousins were spending the night. So one slept in my sister's room with her, and the other slept in my room with me. I didn't dare want to sleep in the guest room, so I slept on the floor with my cousin on my bed. My room was pitch black when I woke in the middle of the night. My doors to my bedroom closet were open as I had gotten a blanket out earlier. I don't know why, but I suddenly felt nervous. I kept looking in my closet. I had an iDog, which was a robotic dog that you connected to your iPod, so music would play out of the speaker from its back. And depending on what music you played, it showed you its emotions by colors that turned on in the front of its face. Green was for happy, yellow for mellow, and red was when it was mad. I remembered I hadn't touched it in weeks because it ran out of batteries and I hadn't gotten new ones, so I left it on the shelf on top of my closet. As I was staring into the closet, I started to hear growling, and I saw the iDog's face starting to light up red. It barked and moved back and forth. I reached up to wake my cousin up, but she was out of my reach, and I was too scared to move. So I just kept staring. Finally, it stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, and in the morning I threw my iDog in the trash. Since then, I have kept my closet doors closed with a rope unless I'm changing clothes. I noticed a vent is near the closet. The reason I'm writing this now, almost having forgot about everything, is because recently my boyfriend has been spending the night a lot. I'm 25 now and still living at home while I finish school. My sister lives in New York for the most part because of school. My father and mother split up a while back, so he moved out, and my mom goes out a lot with her friends. So it's usually me and my boyfriend alone. My room only has a one-person fit bed, So we sleep in the guest room since my boyfriend likes to take up a lot of space when he moves around at night. One night, my mom was out of town for a weekend trip. I had just gotten out of the bathroom and walked into the room where my boyfriend was examining the vent. When I asked what he was doing, he said, "I could swear I saw something coming out of this thing, but there's nothing now. Maybe it was just a bug or something." I didn't pay much attention, and we just decided to go to sleep right away. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had just had a nightmare. I recently suffer from PTSD, so it wasn't uncommon lately that I have night terrors. I woke up and looked over at my boyfriend, who had his back against me and was snoring away. I got up to go take some pills and returned to the room. When I did, my boyfriend was standing under the vent. I jokingly said, "What, did the bedbugs come back?" He didn't reply. I sat on the bed, and the only light was coming from the moon from the window. "Babe, come back to bed." He still didn't reply. "Babe, you're starting to freak me out." He turned, confused like, "Your mom is out of town, right?" I nodded, not knowing where he was going with this. "It's the weirdest thing, but I swear she was calling for help." "What do you mean?" I asked, getting scared. "I heard her yell faintly for help, but it was coming from the vent." We decided he was probably dreaming, and we went back to sleep. Well, he did. The next weekend, my boyfriend had fallen asleep first, and I stayed up reading. When I finished, I turned off the light and cuddled with my boyfriend. When I was just about to drift off, I swear I heard my sister call me. I looked up, and nothing. I figured it was just me about to start dreaming, so I turned to go back to sleep. And again I heard my sister call me. This time it was clear, and I looked at the direction of the sound. It came from the vent. I kept looking, waiting. Over here. I knew I wasn't dreaming, and I knew it had whispered that. I shook my boyfriend awake to tell him what happened. He insisted I was dreaming like he did the week before, and tried to calm me down. He hasn't spent the night since because I don't want to sleep in the guest room, and I don't want to sleep in my room. I feel like the boogeyman is in my vents waiting, trying to lure me under it for something. As soon as I can, I'm moving out. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Paranormal Stories, episode 106. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Once again, the weekend has snuck upon us. Almost like it happens every week the way things are going. Nothing exciting for me planned this weekend. I'll very likely just be tidying up the house because I'll need to make sure the windows are all accessible, because I have someone coming on the 16th to measure for new windows. Oh joy, I also have somebody coming to do a gas inspection on Monday. So not a lot of sleep for me in those 2 days, so that'll be exciting. Don't know when they're actually going to be putting the new windows in. I think at this point it could well be next year, to be honest, and that would be fine by me. Okay, and with that I think I'll head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.